Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, I'm going to continue exploring the world of blockchain this week. And by that, I don't mean fueling the hype, exaggerating the capabilities, or dropping buzzwords left, right and centre, but actually to try and understand about how it's creating opportunities for businesses. Because the more we talk about this, the more that we can increase mainstream adoption. Corentin Denoeud, co-founder of Blockchain Studio, is going to join us on the show today. And he's got a purpose to increase and facilitate blockchain usage while also accelerating and securing the implementation of decentralized applications for businesses. And they also develop something called Rockside, which is a blockchain service provider that helps your team build blockchain apps, industrialize process, and ultimately grow your business. But I also wanted to find out more about the story behind these companies. And as a serial entrepreneur, Corentin co-founded Wijet, the largest taxi jet airline in Europe, where he served as CEO for over 10 years before deciding to move into the world of blockchain. So founded in 2018, Blockchain Studio's first application suite, Rockside, connects enterprises to blockchain and enables developers to navigate that transition to blockchain infrastructure. From building to monitoring applications for production, but all done in a scalable and secure manner. Exciting times indeed. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Paris so we can speak with Corentin Denoeud, co-founder of Blockchain Studio. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Corentin Denoeud. I'm the CEO of Blockchain Studio. We are developing a software which is called Rockside to connect enterprises to blockchain, to help them to follow and to embrace this new innovation.
Excellent. Now, I feel I must explore your backstory a little, because I believe that you're someone that co-founded Wijet, which was the largest taxi jet airline in Europe, where you served as a CEO for 10 years. So I've got to ask, how did you end up in blockchain? I feel there's got to be a big story there somewhere.
I do like innovation. And when we started Wijet, actually, we completely changed the way people were using jet, and we were selling private jet flights using a new private jet aircraft. And I ended up managing this Wijet company in 2017, and I was looking for new businesses. I got this entrepreneur way in my blood, and I've never been an employee of any companies, maybe only an internship. And so I wanted to find new businesses and create like kind of a startup studio. And when I was looking for a CTO for this startup studio, which is probably the hardest profile to find, I was putting a post on LinkedIn, and one of my previous shareholders said that he has some project around innovation around blockchain, and this is how it started. And we started thinking about business. And actually, at that time, this guy was developing a software for Engie, which is the largest energy utility in France. And he was developing a software to help them to create smart contracts on blockchain without coding. And they wanted to sell the software to other companies. And this is how we started the startup Blockchain Studio.
Excellent. And on this Daily Tech podcast, I often hear from businesses that want to explore blockchain-based apps, but they just don't know where to start. And one of the reasons I invited you on the show today was after I heard that Blockchain Studio is the easiest tool to create decentralized applications on blockchain. So can you tell the listeners a little bit more about exactly how you do that? Because I believe that there's going to be a lot of business leaders listening that are a little bit intimidated by this technology, and you're kind of removing that barrier of entry, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, the first way to start actually is probably to understand the technology, which is like a totally different way of thinking when you compare to what we know about the web and internet. So you have to first understand and imagine which use case And of course, blockchain can solve many issues that we have today, but not all. So you need to check that blockchain is the right way to solve your pain, and if we're talking about business or even C2C application. And blockchain is actually one of the best technology to solve some pain, such as when you got conflict in between people and you want to have contracts in between those people, and you don't want to use a third party. Then blockchain is probably one of the best way. When you want to have a persistent data and you don't want to use like big servers and so on, blockchain is probably the best way. And when you want to have a system that never stops and that is always up, then blockchain is probably one of the best way. But actually, blockchain is the best way when you have these three issues. So when you find when you got a pain with these three issues, so then you can start saying that, okay, let's start and let's use blockchain. And then actually, thanks to the tool people are making, such the Rockside, the tool we are developing, it's now easier and easier. And as an example, what we do with Rockside is that we are connecting the enterprise and the actual system of the company, such as authentication system, such as like the cloud they have and whatever, and we connect it to blockchain. So then when you have a developer in a company, he only has to take care about the application itself and the smart contract as well, but he doesn't have to manage all the infrastructure, all the question of identity on the blockchain, all the question of security. We manage everything, and we do compare it actually with the e-commerce website. You know, in 1995, when you wanted to develop an e-commerce website, that was super hard because you had to develop the connection between your application, your website, and the bank. You have to open maybe something on the bank. You have to manage the transactions. You have to manage the storage of the cards and everything. And that needs probably 10 different skills, 10 different type of developers. And then PayPal, Stripe, and others arrived on the market. And now creating and developing an e-commerce website is super easy. And this is exactly what we try to do, managing all the blockchain infrastructure, managing the transaction, managing the identity on the blockchain, and we're connecting to the existing system of the company.
And as someone that's working right in the heart of this space, do you have any examples of businesses that are building blockchain apps, industrialized processes, and actually growing their business as a result of that?
Yeah, that's funny. We work on a funny consortium between it's in France, between four entities. The one is Engie, so our shareholder actually, and they are so this is a utility company. The other one is EDF, which is funny because this is the biggest competitors of Engie. So they did something together, which never happened before blockchain exists. And the other one is a state institution, and then La Poste, which is the French Post. And what they do is funny because, you know, Engie and EDF are selling energy. I mean, that's their business. And they realize that they got maybe 90% of the address of the people in France. And when you open a bank account in France, you need to show your address. And one of the ways to show your address and to prove your address is to send the invoice of NG or EDF, so your energy invoice. And the issue is that the bank lose around 8 billion a year because of false document during the KYC, during the non-new customer process. And so what NG and EDF did is that they use blockchain to certify all the invoice. So when you send the invoice to the bank to prove your address, the bank has the possibility to check that the invoice is real on the blockchain. And the funny thing is that, so this is the start of the project, and later we can grow it, and maybe this blockchain, which is called Archipels, can be probably our French KYC, where I got all my ID, all my address, all my information, and I will be able to send this information and tell who can access to this and so on. So that's funny because, again, this is people who were selling energy, and now they are like selling just certification of a document. And so they are changing the business. So we start to see new business model. And then there are some others, such as like a company who does a consortium in between luxury companies who wants to trust their what they sell. And one of the reasons is because there are a lot of false bags or like copy of bags or something like that when you talk about like very big luxury brands. And so what they do is that every bag has a tag, bags or shoes or watch or whatever has a tag, and the tag is on the blockchain. So when you buy it, you can check that your bags correspond to a real bags and bags that has been manufactured by the brand. And the good thing is that after all, you can resell it as well to someone else and prove that it was a real one. So that's improves the trustability of the bag, and that will probably remove a lot of copies and a lot of false. And that's pretty cool. And I like this project. And there are like multiple of projects like that. And what we see is that in 2018, there were a lot of proof of concept, a lot of research, and like probably 95% of the projects went to the trash. And now in 2019, that's a big difference. There is much less projects, but much bigger, and they start to go in pilot phase or even in production phase. And that's becoming interesting.
Great examples there. Like you say, it's incredibly exciting what's happening there. And for businesses that are embarking on this journey and turning to blockchain, what kind of challenges are they typically coming across, and how you are helping them overcome them?
Yeah, but as I said at the beginning, it's like the way the mindset of blockchain is totally different than the mindset of the web.
Yeah.
As an example, when you send a transaction to the blockchain, you need to send it with an address, a private key, a public key, which look like your email address. And to sign the transaction to show that it has been sent by yourself or by this company, you have a private key that you need to keep for yourself. And this private key is for an email, could be your password. The thing is that because on blockchain, everything is totally immutable, so you cannot change it. So when you send a transaction on blockchain, you cannot remove it. Then there is an issue, because if someone steals your private key, so that means that someone can send transaction under your name. And that's a big issue, because if it's the private keys that represent the state, as an example, and if you steal it, that means that you can send transaction under the name of the state. And the difference, if you're talking about an email, if someone goes on your email, so then you can change your password and change it easily, and then the people cannot go on your email again. And this is not possible on the blockchain. So there is a big issue around the key management. And as an example, if we are talking on the business side, when, I don't know, like a CFO wants to do a transaction on a blockchain regarding a contract or convertible bonds or whatever that is on the blockchain, he needs to do a transfer under the name of the company. So he needs to have access to this private key. But the thing is that the CFO can change at some point. So if we give them, if the company gives to the CFO the private key, then the private key is when the CFO leaves, the CFO will still be able to manage transaction and to send transaction under the name of the company. So what we do is that we manage all these keys without showing to any people in the company, but then giving them access depending on their role, on their rights, etc., etc. So we mainly manage all this issue about identity on blockchain for businesses.
And I also want to ask, I mean, are you focused on a particular industry, or is there an appetite for blockchain apps right across the board? I suspect I already know the answer to that, because in just a few minutes of talking to you, we've covered everything from energy to products. So I would imagine that it's right across the board, isn't it?
Yeah, we think that it's gonna touch probably 80% of the businesses. So first we will probably see the main use case will save probably costs. That will be people will use blockchain to for cost saving. Then we will have probably blockchain to increase the user experience, and then probably the next step will be the new businesses, new business model, etc., such as the one from Archipel, from the two energy utilities in France. And in terms of type of business, that's super large. That's, yeah, as you said, energy, finance, traceability for any type of things. But which is true is that today the most advanced businesses on the blockchain are the financial institutions such as banks, insurance, and so on, and they are the most advanced. When you look at it, there is around 10% of the project for financial institutions that are on the production stage. And for the other businesses, it's less than 8%, between 6 and 7%. So we are like it's a very immature market from now, but that's growing fast. So we and exactly like PayPal has no typical business. They do work for everything. We also do the same. Like when you use big blockchain, when a company wants to use blockchain, what they do is they do a transaction on blockchain and they receive a transaction on blockchain, and they can sum it up. And this is exactly what we do. Help people to do transaction and receive transaction on blockchain. So we are not focusing on a specific business, but because of the market now, we do talk more to financial institution than any other businesses.
And I'm curious, are you experiencing any challenges around adoption and increasing that adoption, or is that kind of happening naturally at the moment?
No, that's one of the huge issue.
Yeah,
actually, and we had this issue as well for the company. We started with a software that was helping people to develop smart contracts, and we had like a lot of people who came to us and say, "Oh, I want this. This is pretty cool," and so on. It was in 2017, 2018. And then suddenly there were like more and more developers on blockchain. There were more and more templates of smart contracts, more and more standard on smart contract. And this software that we created was totally like unusable, and there were no pain actually on creating smart contracts. So then we moved slowly, and we detect new pain, and it's moving actually quite fast. So for us, it's an issue because it's an emerging market that is moving very fast. So we need to be in advance, and that's a big challenge. And the other challenge is that we got a lot of companies that come to us to understand what is blockchain and how it works and what we can do. But this is not really our business. What we do is that we help people who has already a project. But of course, because of the immaturity of the project, of the technology, we need to help people to understand. We need to democratize it. So we have like kind of two jobs in the same time, but that's what we like.
Now, when I was researching you, I also learned that Blockchain Studio recently joined the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Can you tell me more about that and how you believe that the blockchain development frameworks and standardization tools will actually help foster that adoption of blockchain that we're talking about?
Yeah, interesting. Actually, we started, and we are still like starting to be agnostic in terms of blockchain. You know, we have a layer on the top of the protocol, and so we basically could accept any type of blockchain, but we decided to focus more on all the Ethereum-like blockchain. So there are like many. There are the Ethereum that everyone could know, but there are also this POA network, which is another network based on the Ethereum protocol, and there are like many others, and like small consortium or large consortium. And we finally decided to focus on Ethereum because we realized that it can solve most of the pains of the company. There is one of the other competitor of Ethereum, if we are talking about business, is Hyperledger for a consortium. And there are like many companies that came to us, and when we told us that we're not at the moment Hyperledger compatible, they say, okay, so let's maybe meet another time. But what we see more and more is that people and companies are more and more attracted by Ethereum. And one of the reasons is because there are more and more tools, such as like we have. Hyperledger is mainly used and developed by IBM teams. So they have like people to talk when they use, so the businesses have people to talk to when they use Hyperledger. When we are talking about Ethereum, there is a like very large community of people. But when you are a business, you cannot like talk to the community. You need to have a companies to talk to. You need to be able to have like some support and so on. And thanks to all this creation of these startups and large companies, the Ethereum is becoming more and more enterprise grade. And this is why we joined this Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, is because we think that creating a big alliance of all the people who are working on the protocol, working on project around it, it will help it to become more and more usable, more and more friendly in some ways, and more usable in real life. And this is why we've done that.
And you guys also reached a huge milestone with Rockside Cloud, which is a simple, reliable and scalable access to Ethereum networks. I mean, can you expand on that? Because it sounds incredibly exciting.
Yeah, so our software actually is, and we are mainly focused on that, is a software that you install on premises. So the company use the software, install it on their own infrastructure. And one of the reasons is because when you do blockchain, one of the reasons you use blockchain is because you want to remove third parties. So if you use a cloud to use blockchain, so then it means that you integrate a new third party in your system, and you do not want to do that. But we realized in another way that some of our clients didn't have their own infrastructure. They didn't want to manage their infrastructure. They didn't want to like manage servers and so on. So this is why we created this cloud version, and it will be a reflect of what we do step by step on our Rockside on-premises version. So we will updating every month or every 2-3 months to show what we do. And this is a real quickly access for the enterprises to blockchain. And so this is maybe and probably a first step for like small and medium enterprises to use blockchain.
And what about the future? Is there anything else that you can share with us today that excites you about your future plans?
Well, so we just opened like a few weeks ago an office in Singapore. And one of the reasons is because the Southeast Asia is probably one of the most mature region on blockchain. And so we have someone there, and we start selling the product there, and we got like very big contacts. And of course, we will continuing expand on other country. We didn't define which one yet, but of course we'll do. And then we had also on another way, some people came to us and wanted to invest and blah, blah, blah. So we are like looking at that and checking what will be the next. And as you said, I've creating this, I've co-founded this Wijet 10 years ago. And I want to make a bigger company now. So probably that the next stage would be much bigger. So we try to make it big. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, a lot of actually in September we will announce a lot of new partnership with clients and with technology partnership as well. But sorry, I cannot tell more right now. But that would be exciting.
Oh, you've left us with a teaser there, the perfect end to the podcast. But before I do let you go, could I ask that you point anybody listening in the direction of where they can find out more information about your work at Blockchain Studio and indeed Rockside, and the best way of contacting a member of your team if they're just left with a few questions after listening to our conversation?
Yeah, we got a website where Rockside, so ROCK SIDE.io, where we got all the information about Rockside, and we will actually update it on September. And we also have a Slack, and we do have a Medium, so do not hesitate to contact us. We will be more than happy to answer and to help you to embrace again this new innovative technology, which is actually very exciting.
I understand how you must be locked down to so many NDAs and you must be dying to talk about some of the big things on the horizon. But I thank you for coming on today and sharing some of those teasers with us. And it sounds like we need to get you back on in September and find out more about these partnerships.
Let's make it. Sure.
But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on today. Thank you.
Thank you.
This one had it all for me. We've got that great personal backstory and journey that led to a completely new vision, connecting businesses to blockchain technologies to ultimately build that new economic system, which is fairer, more open and secure. And like they say in their vision statement, the Web 2.0 provided a fertile ground for corporations to monopolise control and profits. And many sectors such as finance, law and healthcare need neutral and open infrastructure that's not actually controlled by any one company or person. So the transition to Web 3.0 is a trustless, anti-corruptible and anti-censorship system. That's where it all began. And blockchain technologies are the foundation for this new era of the internet. And as with all paradigm shifts that preceded it, blockchain will create winners and it will create losers. But how do you see this one playing out? Please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. Let's carry on this conversation and understand how technology can be seen as a business enabler. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so please keep them coming in. We have several blockchain episodes this week. I've had some great feedback so far. And most importantly, we're having real conversations about how it can be used in a business environment. And that's where the adoption thing comes in. But before I waffle on too much, I'll make my excuses and get out of here. I'm sure you've got a lot of other podcasts that you listen to on your feed, and I've probably taken up far too much of your time already. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.